Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Alien Force Retrospectives. And today we're going to be looking at episode 41 of Ben 10 Alien Force, Above and Beyond. And in this episode, the main characters are not Ben, Gwen, and Kevin. In this episode, the main characters are the Plumbers Helpers, consisting of Alan, Manny, Helen, and Pierce. Pretty much what's going on is that... Sorry, wind. Pretty much what's going on is that they're currently just kind of waiting around at their base because Max is gone and they're just waiting for orders. All the Manny's getting a little bit stir crazy. Pierce tells him that he can't leave. However, before the two can get into an actual fight, suddenly they get a distress call on an encrypted signal. Helen goes to check it out. Helen winds up unencrypting it. It turns out it's from Max on a plumber satellite, or not on a plumber satellite. Something seems to be going wrong, and he says he needs help. However, sorry, keeping an eye on everything over there. But however, before he can tell him what it is, something seems to be chasing after him. The feed cuts for a second, and then when it comes back on, it turns out the thing that's hunting him is Ben. And when Ben even sees the plumber's helpers talking, and he tells them stay out of his way or they'll get hurt. And so he destroys the feed. As such, the plumbers realize that something's not right with Ben, and Max is in danger. So they take a shuttle up and go to the satellite, and it's supposed to be a storage satellite for alien tech. That's just too dangerous for Earth. And when they get there, they find that the place has been damaged. A bunch of stuff is uprooted, but they manage to thankfully find a console that has a message from Max saying that he's currently hiding in the cargo hold, and that they need to go get him, but do it as a team. However, Helen runs in first, and unfortunately she doesn't find Max. She finds Ben, who manages to take her out with Echo. The group manages to catch up with her. Ben manages to get away, but they realize that they have to be careful, be wary of Ben, and they know Ben's a threat, and and whatever's going on with him, it's not natural. Ben never would act like this, so they make it two priorities. They try to make their biggest priority finding Max, because odds are whatever's going wrong with Ben, he might know something about it, and he might be able to fix it. However, Helen and Manny say that Ben is also still a threat, so they decide to split up, with Pierce and Alan going to find Max, while Helen and Manny go to find Ben. Or is it the other way around? I think they split up to do their own thing, but I don't know. I don't really know. I think that's what they were, but either way, they decide to do this, though Pierce is constantly saying they have to be a team. However, things go south fast, as while Pierce and Alan are searching for Max, they manage to get split up, with Ben being able to take care of Pierce's goop, and then then Helen and Manny get split up, and Manny winds up fighting Ben as Wrath and gets his butt royally handed to him. Unfortunately, the thing is though, Ben and Manny's fight happened in a control room where there was supposed to be this anti-gravity disc that looked like a gyroscope was, and in the battle, Ben threw Manny into one of the discs, and unfortunately, it gets jammed, and it starts to cause the satellite to fall, though they don't realize it till later. And eventually, Helen, Manny, and Pierce catch up with each other, and Pierce tells them they have to stick together if they want to stand a chance against Ben. And they manage to find Ben while he and Alan are fighting, with Ben as Big Chill. They manage to get Alan's fat out of the fire, and Ben manages to escape. But that's when they realize that they are better off as a team. The only way they could have fought Ben was together. And so, again, they still make it their priority to find Max, and they realize they have to go to the control room that might give them the better advantage. They manage to get there, but it turns out that Ben is there waiting for them. And so he ends up going humongosaur and chases them out of the room, and Pierce winds up getting. And so Pierce has an idea. He has Helen, Manny, and Alan lure Ben more over into the cargo hold, and then when they manage to get him out, and then when they get him in there, they all rush out, and They close up the cargo hold and open the airlock, launching Ben and their ship all into space. And while while it looks like this might end up killing Ben, Pierce says that Ben is actually tough enough to, or at least Humongousaur is tough enough to at least survive in space for a few minutes. So they want to try and find Max and get Ben in there so they can fix him. But that's when they notice that the satellite's is going to crash down, and they manage to pinpoint where with the trajectory going, it'll crash down into London. So they decide to go into the control room, and they're trying to find ways of getting around it, but this thing can't be, because it's a satellite, it can't be flown. They can't redirect it. So they decide that they realize they have to make a plan. It turns out that the satellite has a failsafe. If you have 3 plumber badges, you can override the controls and pretty much take control. And the ship and the satellite will self-destruct. And Manny volunteers to do it while everyone else runs, and he'll meet them at the ship. But then they remember they launched the ship into space, so they're kind of stuck now. So the group realizes that that if they do this, then there's no going back, and they're good with it. They realize that as plumbers, it's their job to sacrifice themselves for stuff like this. So they each get their plumber badges ready. They set the satellite to self-destruct, but unfortunately nothing happens. They realize that whatever's happening, in all the chaos of what's happened, the computer terminal was damaged, so they can't do this. Helen tries to operate it manually, but at that moment Max comes in and says that he's seen enough. The group's a little confused about that, and then when suddenly Ben walks back in as Humongousaur, except now he's shivering, and when he turns back, he's back to normal, and even says, "I can't believe you guys just threw me into space. That's so not cool." And so Max says that it's fine. He can probably take care of it. So it turns out that the satellite actually has emergency thrusters, which makes sense. So with the satellite, you probably should be careful if it loses its balance. So he manages to activate them and gets the satellite back into orbit. And so we learn exactly what's going on. It turns out that the satellite wasn't a storage facility, it was a training facility. And that the whole Ben going crazy thing and Max missing was actually just a training exercise. So this is to test the teamwork of the group. To test the teamwork of the helpers. They not only prove that, but they also prove just how dedicated they are to this job, because the whole satellite going out of orbit, that was not part of the training exercise. That was a legitimate accident. People's lives were in danger, and the fact that they kept themselves so calm during this and were willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good just kind of proves that they're worthy to Max and Ben. Though, if you ask me, that was probably a little too risky, considering that that people's lives were on the line. But in the end of the day, I guess Max would have fixed everything. Maybe he just wanted to see how everything went, but I don't know. But so the group decides so Ben and Max say that that the helpers pass the flying colors. I'm kind of wondering where Cooper is, but at the end of the day, they say that they're going to go to Plumber Academy, which I guess is a thing now. I don't know. Max isn't even in retirement in this episode again, even though he's supposed to be. I thought it was just a part-time job, but whatever. I don't know. That continuity got thrown out the window a long time ago. But bottom line, at the end of hold on a second. Sorry about that. I wanted to check on something. Anyway, my thoughts on this episode. I think it's a nice episode. For one thing, I liked seeing kind of Ben as the villain, for one thing. What's actually, like, when I first saw this episode, I was convinced it was Albedo. I'd gone online, I looked up Albedo, and I heard he was going to be in some upcoming episodes, and for some reason, the Ben 10 wiki said that he was going to be in this episode. So I thought, oh, it's Albedo. But as the episode went on, and they continually denied that fact, I was kind of wondering, what's wrong with Ben then? What's going on with him? Is something the matter? Why is he attacking them? Why is he attacking Max? What's going on here? It was a legitimate nice mystery, and I kind of like. And what's actually kind of funny is that when you first see it, you at first think that something is a little up with Ben, but you can kind of detect a little hamminess to his role. And I get and when you realize that it's all just an act, that he's just playing the bad guy to get the plumbers helpers to fight against him, I actually you can kind of actually see that in it. Then he's clearly enjoying what he's doing. I like. I also kind of like seeing the individual fights as they did show the individual strengths of each of the helpers, and that while they are good, they're better off as a team as Ben's better, which I like. I do like that. And I think my biggest problems with it are just that's really all the whole point of the episode. It was just kind of a training montage. Like there's nothing really grand about it. There was the whole threat with the satellite coming down, but that was a threat that could have been fixed easily. And I know it was something that, and really it doesn't really do much aside from making the characters plumbers, which it's cool. I like seeing that. I like seeing them grow beyond helpers, which is nice. I do like that. I like that. It's nice to see them grow, but we don't really see. But in this series or even Ultimate Alien, it doesn't really nothing really comes of it. At least to my memory. I could be wrong. I might be misremembering things. Someone point that out to me if it was. At the end of the day, it's just a nice episode. Kind of a nice filler episode. Nothing big comes of it aside from the plumber's helper. Aside from what happens to the plumber's helpers. It's nice seeing Ben. It's kind of fun to see. It's kind of cool seeing Ben as the villain. I like seeing him go along with it. We see more wrath hamminess, which I'm always up for. It's really nice, and at the end of the day, it's just a nice episode. Though, I do also, but I also, which also kind of brings me up to something that kind of annoys me, and it's not with Alien Force, it's with Omniverse, believe it or not, because I like these characters. I like seeing them, and while their backstory kind of was a little iffy to me until I heard the explanation, which I'm okay with the explanation, I don't know, I don't like what happens to these characters in Omniverse, because this moment, I like one of my favorite moments in the show, in this episode, is when they're willing to sacrifice themselves. Like they realize that with the satellite going down and their ship out of the way, the only way to stop this is to destroy the satellite. But they know that they are essential. That if they do that, then they're signing their own death warrant. They're signing their own death certificates. And I'm okay with that. I like seeing this noble. I like seeing them willing to make this noble sacrifice for so many people, and I don't like what happens to these characters in Omniverse. I might have spoiled this in the Plumbers Helpers vlog. I might not have. I think I did, but I don't like what happens to these characters in Omniverse. I don't. I'm okay with the explanation that comes with it. I just don't like the consequences from learning that explanation and what happens to these characters after. I don't like that. And this episode, and just to see that selfless moment, to see these characters actually being selfless and kind and willing to do that, I don't know. I don't really like that. And that's which I don't know. That's really just my opinion. That's just really just my 2 cents. So yeah, there's not really much to talk about this episode. In the end of the day, it's just a filler episode. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week with the return of Chromastone, believe it or not. So, yeah. Take care.